Hello and welcome back to Take This TV, the television book club podcast where each week we watch an episode or two of our favorite shows and we talk about it with our friends in the fandom. Who's that? What? It's you? Oh, it's you. Hello. I'm Carmen Askerneese and I'm joined by my dear friend, Kimberly Woods. Hello.
Hi, hot potatoes.
This season, we're watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And today we're on Season 1, Episode 4, Double Date. Here's the official Amazon blurb. John and Jane Smith plan a double date with another couple, also named John and Jane Smith. The new friends prove to be wildly unpredictable, leading to escalating antics over the course of the evening. That's a great description, because that's exactly what happens.
It is exactly what happens. Boy, howdy.
Boy, howdy. I was excited about this, Carmen, because last episode we were talking about what about the other players in the field? And this episode, we get some players in the field. We get other John and other Jane.
You called it. You did. Okay, is it just me? Or did you also think, like, oh, this other John is here to assassinate them?
I was freaked out the whole time because they were way too trusting from the beginning, in my opinion. You know, they're meeting them. They're like, oh my gosh, we should go on this, we should have a double date. We can talk shop because, we're all in the same business. And then they immediately give John their phone so they can, put their number in, which, we saw in a previous episode, them, putting the card under, stealing, tapping into the cell phone. And I was like, you guys, you just, literally did this to somebody else right now?
They're the worst spies.
And then, where do they have this double date, Carmen?
At their house, where they live. And
what do they do?
They talk about work and reveal that they failed a mission. Like, what the heck?
And they give them a tour all over their house.
And they show them the panic room. Yeah.
Which we haven't even seen. I'm like, what is happening? They're taking them into, every nook and cranny of this place? Are we sure they're not bugging their home to get blackmail?
It was not smart. And I will say, I'm a pretty extroverted person, but I'm also the idea of meeting somebody at a farmer's market and then by the end of the conversation, oh, you're going to come to my house and we're going to celebrate together is like a nightmare. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, go away. Don't talk to me. Go away forever. Goodbye forever.
I know. It's like, what do I cook? I just met these people. How do we know what they like? It seems like it would be super stressful.
Yeah. I guess it would be exciting to because they can't talk about their work with anybody. And I mean, sometimes our work is pretty secretive and we're not allowed to talk about it. So it is kind of cool to be like, oh, another person that I can talk about with this secret or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're not being very cautious. They do get a message from Hi in the beginning that says, have a good day off. So
yep.
We are aware that they're in vacation mode.
Yeah. But usually Jane doesn't like vacation friends, but she's super excited about these two.
Do you think so? I feel like she was just going along with it. Well, by the end of it, she is excited. Because at first I was like, oh, is she just going along with this?
I think it's like you're saying. I think she was like, oh my gosh, finally, at least we can talk to somebody about this. Because initially in the other episode, she was the one that really wanted to talk about what they had just gone through.
Yeah.
And John was like, we're not allowed to talk about work.
That's
so
right.
I feel that's where she's like, yes, I can finally talk about this.
He keeps hitting her with the cold shoulder.
But did you notice that other Jane was pointing out the art that the company didn't pick out and also was like, oh, hi, your cat.
I did notice that.
Is she spying for the company? What is she seeing? What rules they're breaking?
The acting and the writing in this show is so good because it captures those people who are overly friendly, but Like those are the kind of people who have like in D&D terms, like they roll a nat 20 in charisma, and like those you never know like if they're being genuine or if they're just like playing you or whatever. And
Yeah.
I like that because there's always this like underlying sense of, are these people actually interested in being John and Jane's friends, or are they here with some ulterior motive?
Yeah, they're played by Other Jane is played by Parker Posey, who we know from things like Best in Show and Scream 3, and Other John is played by Wagner Moura, who's from Narcos and The Gray Man, as well as other stuff, and they are incredible.
They are so
It was
good.
so fun to watch them being these like charismatic spies.
They also said they've been in the organization for 5 years, was it?
Yeah, I think 5 or 6 years. But we learned also that John had a previous partner who died, and so he got rematched with this current Other Jane.
Oh, his previous Jane died? I missed that part.
Yep.
Did they
I
say
think
how
he's
she
been at
died?
this for like 15 years or something, so he's been doing it for a while. They did not say how she died.
Ooh.
No, they did not. I don't know if they tried to leave because there is that hilarious moment when our John and Jane open up about their pact that they were going to make enough money and then they were just going to go their separate ways and leave. And, Other John bursts out in hysterics like, that's really cute. That's really funny. You guys thought you could actually like leave? That's really cute.
No, this episode definitely gave me the vibe of like in a lot. I love gangster movies and like gangster stories, and it's like, oh, these people think they can get out of the life. Like there's the only way out of this life is death, and it definitely had those vibes.
Yeah. But the way he was laughing so much, it made me think like, is that what happened to his other Jane before? Like, did they maybe at one point, or did she try to get out and she got killed? And that's why he was like, I mean, he was laughing hard.
He was cracking up. They also said John 2 and Jane 2 said that they had to kill other John and Janes before, and when our John and Jane ask why, they kind of make the snide remark of maybe they were going to get divorced because of Jane's our Jane bringing up the pact that our John and Jane have.
Yeah. And it's funny because when we first meet this other John, he talks about that this is the first time he's met somebody by accident.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yep, he's killed somebody. He's killed some other Johns and Janes.
Yeah. It definitely was like, what does that mean?
What did you think about the fact that our John and Jane call their boss hi, and super spy John and Jane, or other John and Jane, call their boss supervisor?
You know what? I think that like I have a hard time watching shows and not doing the like, oh, if that was me, what would I do kind of thing, which I think is part of the fun. And I was like, I always, every time I go to a new job, especially in corporate America, I try to catch the vibe of other people before I'm too open about myself. And I feel like our John and Jane are an open book, which I'm like, rookie mistake. But I think it's cute that our John and Jane call it hi. And I mean, I feel like those are the kind of vibes that I would probably have. And I like that about them. And I definitely think that it says a lot about the other couple that they call a supervisor. And it also shows how dangerous they are because they have this really friendly demeanor, but everything is business for them.
I love this couple because they give us context for this world. It's through them that we learn that there's such a thing as super high risk, which is the jobs that they're signed up for. And our John and Jane are like, what? There's super high risk? And there's like low risk? Like what?
Yeah, they also talk about low risk a little bit, and our John mentions being a gardener. And they also kind of put the pieces together about some of the wait staff at the different events that they've been at, and how some of the wait staff may have been low risk.
And people carrying packages.
Mm-hmm.
Which
And
is
it's
somebody
like,
they were following in the beginning.
is that lady was she a Jane? I don't know. So it seems like whoever Hi isn't afraid to use Johns and Janes against one another, just for whatever their motives are. And the world building is just so good in this show, like you said. And I think that they do it in a great way that it feels natural, where we're learning about this world with John and Jane, but there's also information that they have that we don't have, and we kind of get organically from their experiences.
Mm-hmm. Can I also say that I love that they wear these like matching black tactical turtlenecks for their dinner, or John and Jane. Yes, it's so spy and so cute.
It is really cute. Are you the kind of person that's like, hey, we need to match as a couple? Or are you like, let's do our own thing?
You know, me and my husband usually end up accidentally matching. And I'm like, yes.
So y'all are John and Jane, because it seems like they accidentally match.
Yeah. We're like, we were thinking the same color today. Great.
Yeah, I thought it was really cute.
What about you?
I am
You
the
like
kind.
matchy-matchy?
I love to match. I'm like, let's get some matching PJs and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm all about the cuteness. I love that Jane asked John, or does she ask him if she should change? I feel like there's a moment where it's like, how do you feel about us matching?
Yeah, she's like, is it too much? And he's like, no, it's perfect. I love seeing their relationship.
There are a lot of sweet moments.
Yeah. And so towards the end of this moment, our other John gives his advice about like how to survive any sort of scenario. And he says something like, if you can control your breathing, you can control anything. What did you think about that advice?
I mean, it was some like grade A, like YouTube finance bro advice. Like breaking news, water is wet. But the way he delivered it is just...
Oh my gosh. The way he segued into that moment with his posture. Like he was like leaning back and like finishing his pecan ice cream or whatever, and then he like comes in and is like up against the like table, like leaning in. Like I love what you said, because it's so perfect, like this charisma nat 20. It's so that couple.
Yes, very, very enticing, very seductive. Yeah. Brings you in and you believe everything he's saying.
And we literally see our John lean in to like match him. He's like literally physically pulled into this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely like shows the experience that John 2 and Jane 2 have, because they're sort of in control of the situation the whole time. I mean, even coming into our John and Jane's house, they sort of like are very, what's the word? I don't want to say assertive, but they are very confident in the space. Very at home
in somebody else's home.
I'm definitely the kind of person of like, I walk in, I'm like, do I take my shoes off? I'm standing by the door, I'm waiting for permission to do stuff.
Yeah.
But
what room would you like me in? Yeah.
Right. And Jane 2 just like while John 2 is entering the house, Jane 2 just walks into the other room on her own. And I'm like, so bold. So bold.
It was so good. By the end of this episode, they're all drunk. And then other John and other Jane are like, oh, this was lovely. You know, it's like, what, 2 a.m? Time for our mission that we have. Bye. You know? And then they're like, oh, actually, you guys want to come with us? You guys want to, like, get a little taste of some super high risk? It's, you know, it'll be great. Just come on.
Oh, my gosh.
And then our couple's like, oh, yeah, sure. At least our Jane is like, let's go. And our John reluctantly is like, really? We're doing this? Oh, okay.
John and Jane expressed interest of like doing super high risk, which is like, I can't tell if they're like trying to feel each other out of like, I'm going to say I'm interested because the other person is interested, or if they both really are wanting to do it. I think we get a pretty good idea later, but at this moment it's kind of hard to tell. And they both seem kind of impressionable.
Yeah. It's funny because to me, I read it was like a little bit more Jane and a little bit more John being like, oh, I can't like, you know, look this way in front of her, so I better say yes.
I would have been like, girl, bye. I'm going to bed.
Oh my gosh.
But
What
yes.
did you think about that moment where they, they're racing through the streets, they lead them to this helicopter, they get them all settled in the helicopter, and then they close doors.
Couldn't have been me, bruh. Couldn't have been me as a normal civilian. So if I was a super killer spy, definitely wouldn't have been me. I'd be like, I'm getting off the helicopter and I'm leaving, and I'm not asking. I'm telling you, like, I'm leaving right now. Jane, if you're coming, come on. If not, I'll see you back at the house. Like, I'm out. Because our John and Jane don't really pick up on the clues that they're kind of getting shuffled off to do this high-risk mission on their own. They think that they're going along with John 2 and Jane 2.
Even though they got trackers placed on them.
Which, oh my gosh. I feel like I'm always thinking worst case scenario. I'm like, oh, you got to get whacked. But I was like, they're placing trackers on you? Is this like some most dangerous game kind of stuff of like they're about to hunt you and that's their job? And our John and Jane are so cool about it. And even before they leave the house, they have that little powwow in the closet where Jane's like, oh, they didn't like my charcuterie board or whatever. And John's like, they didn't like my chicken. And it was a really cute moment.
It was really sweet. And they both were like, no, it was great. I love that.
So they get shuffled onto this helicopter. What do you think? What did you think about that, Kimberly?
I thought that was wild. I thought it was crazy. I was like, what is happening? These people. Yeah, that whole, I didn't know what to make of the scene afterwards where they travel for, God knows how long. Seems like hours because, the sun is up whenever they land in the middle of a jungle somewhere. I would have been freaked out. That whole like sequence of scenes that happened that's so fast was hilarious to me.
So when they get to the jungle, the guy on the chopper is like, it's a dangerous area, so I'm gonna drop you off and I'll be back in like an hour or something like that at the LZ, same place where I drop you, whatever. And John and Jane are kind of like asleep and waking up, and I'm like, dude, you guys are gonna miss the extract. Because I definitely thought they were setting up of like, they're kind of not paying attention and they're gonna get left in the jungle.
I was like, oh, they totally didn't hear this.
So yeah, it does a good job of building the tension right from that moment. And all they know is that they're supposed to deliver these bags. John 2 and Jane 2 told them that there were supplies in the bags, and that's kind of about it.
That's it. And the people they're delivering to were expecting somebody else. So, yeah, it doesn't go that great.
Yeah. Seems like there was some, like, either pirates or rebels or some sort of child soldiers that they run into who, like, take the supplies and essentially kidnap them and make them, like, strip down in some barn or something. In a little shack.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do get a moment where things are not looking good. And John says, whatever happens, just know I love you.
Yep.
And I was like...
He said it first? Me too.
I mean, under threat of death. But he said it.
I loved it. And then he just machete chops.
He does.
And then we cut to the helicopter with blood all over both of their faces. And they look completely traumatized.
We've seen sort of like... with the ski trip that John is kind of a capable fighter, and we've seen Jane be capable in the field as well. So I like that there's kind of like, and then they get back to the chopper. Like we don't have to spend 20 minutes on them like hacking up these child soldiers. You get what happened. So I kind of liked that. And their expressions when they're back in the chopper tell you a lot about everything. And I love that John too calls. While they're on the roof back. What did you think about that helicopter ride back?
Oh my gosh. I loved their expressions because it was just like traumatized for them. Like it you know, they come in wanting to be spies that are high risk, and then they're trying out the super high risk thing, and it's clearly way above them. Like, I wasn't sure if it was going to be necessarily, because they seem to say that they like the high risk. But yeah, it was just like, no, this isn't their jam, but they got that money.
They got
I don't know if that money
$300,000.
might be it changed their expression a little bit. So
I don't know.
They still might choose it for the money.
We did get some insight into a little bit of insight into John's idea of the spy life, because when they're all sitting down having ice cream and drinks together, John mentions wanting to go low risk someday, but he doesn't like the idea of James Bond delivering packages. So like we get some insight that like he thinks like being a spy is like the Bond films where it's like you're all debonair and you're charming people at parties and big explosions, fast cars, lots of, you know, sex and excitement. But he's learning over the course of this super high risk mission. He and Jane both learned that it's actually like helping some like rebel group get weapons and guns to probably overthrow some government in some place you don't know about it or something like that. So
Yeah.
not as glamorous.
No. And even with their, you know, normal high risk job, they blew somebody up. We still don't know who those people are. There's 9 people, so I mean
Not very Bond-like.
not very Bond-like. But other John and other Jane are so funny on the phone because they're just like, so, did you love it? You know, like, how was it? Great, right? Just like
So
disconnected
nonchalant
from the horrors, yeah, that our John and Jane have experienced.
Yeah, John's literally covered in blood on FaceTime with them. And they're like, and John too is like having a casual conversation about something from their hangout last night, and just like nothing's happening, like it's an average
And
day.
like eating cereal,
Yeah,
right? It's just like, you know, it's another morning. But here's my question, Carmen. Like, okay, so what was other John and other Jane's mission? Was it actually this? And were they willing to like risk failing by throwing new people in it? Or was their actual mission to like recruit this John and Jane to like super high risk jobs? Because you think the company might want that, right? They might want to like hook people for even more.
I didn't even think about that. That's a really good theory. Because what if they want everybody to be super high risk? So it's essentially just like everybody, like at some point you have to, it's like an MLM where you have to, oh, dang. That's a good, I hope that that's true, because that's a really good idea.
I hope so too. We'll see. I feel like either way, I don't know. They got a lot of blackmail on them possibly because they could have bugged their place.
Yeah. And we do see that when they get back home, that they're both kind of trying to decompress after everything that's happened. And then we kind of see them turning in for the night. They are sleeping in the same bed now. So their relationship has progressed. And then
so sweet.
Jane makes the first move and is like, those guys kind of sucked, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that moment. And they're like, yeah, it was like a weird spell. Why were we so into them?
They were enchanted by the charisma charm. I like that moment too, because it's always like when you like have mutual friends with like a partner, or like you meet your friends' friends, or like people that somebody close to you knows. It's always like, I don't want to be like a damper on this person's like whole thing or whatever, but that person really sucks, and I'm not going to bring it up unless the person close to me also thinks that they suck.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too when you're like seeing somebody, you're like, oh, they're kind of swept up in it. Like, oh, maybe I'm swept up in it, and like maybe there is something here. Like you kind of like feed on each other a little bit to try to like convince yourself that maybe this is something.
Yeah, it's not them, it's me.
Yeah.
I just got to be fun. John and Jane join a frat, yeah. I do have a question for you, though, Kimberly.
Yes.
Did you love this episode?
Yes! I loved it, Carmen. I felt like I got so much more context, so much more world building, and yeah, I just love like all the little things that we learned about the company in this episode.
Heck yeah.
Carmen, did you love it?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah?
I liked it, and I love seeing John and Jane like in the little moments in their relationship, and I think that John 2 and Jane 2 is great world building, and we get to learn a lot. But it felt a little bit like filler to me, and I was just like, oh well, you know, I kind of like when it's more about the dynamic between John and Jane. But I know that, like, you know, they're involved in something bigger than them. So I'm excited to see what happens next.
They said, I love you.
They did. Under duress.
But then at the end, too, they talked about it.
Oh, that's right. They did.
They did. Yeah. They were kind of like, wait, so Jane was like, you kind of like said something, like, you know. And he was like, I was under duress.
She had to pry it out of him, yeah.
Yeah. And it was really sweet.
It was sweet.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens next episode.
Me too.
That's it for today, everybody. So subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to leave us a review. Tell us what you thought on social media. We're at Take This TV on TikTok and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the club. And remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.